Hello, I'm Nicolas Cage and welcome to Ask Me Anything.
Would you do a Face-Off 2?
Yes.
Face-Off 2! Face On! The Faced and the Furious!
Two-faced. Two-face face-off.
What genre of movies do you like best?
Independently spirited dramas. And by independently spirited, I mean the types of stories and characters that studios are too chicken to touch.
Do you like bees?
Yes, I would have to say they're my favorite insect. They make us honey. Bees and then the firefly. And ants are interesting. Bumblebees are quite adorable. Don't get me started on the praying mantis. I told David Cronenberg once that the praying mantis was the most ferocious of the insects, and he so said no, and I said, "What is?" And he said the dragonfly larvae, and he said that the beast in the Alien movies was designed after the dragonfly larvae because it shoots its teeth out, and when it attacks...
Okay, this is the best AMA.
Have you kept in contact with David Lynch?
I did call David when we were filming Massive Talent because I had hoped he might play the role of the director I was auditioning for, but it was at the height of the concerns with COVID, and he didn't want to leave the house. The result of David Gordon Green, however, was pitch perfect, and I do hope David Gordon Green does more work as a thespian.
What's your favorite pasta shape?
I once went to an Italian restaurant in San Francisco about 25 years ago with Charlie Sheen because they had square tube pasta, and he was very interested in trying square tube pasta. And we did, and we loved it so much, we went back the next day to try it again.
Hi, Nick. Huge fan here. How do you feel about your weird but extremely dedicated fandom like us on R1 True God?
I think any kind of enthusiasm is always welcome and not to be taken for granted.
God.
Who is a director you would like to work with?
I would love to work with Christopher Nolan. I would love to work with Ari Aster. I would love to work with Robert Eggers. Spike Lee, too.
Nick Cage in an Ari Aster horror film, let's go!
Evening, sir. What movie can you watch over and over and still not get bored?
Apocalypse Now and Spirited Away.
Did you enjoy filming in Dubrovnik? What a nice town.
Dubrovnik is just a gorgeous place. Sadly, we were in the height of the COVID pandemic during filming. So, no, I never left my hotel room, only when I was shooting. I did not get to enjoy the charm and the restaurants of Dubrovnik. I will have to go back.
You and Pedro seemed like you had so much fun making this movie. What is one story you don't mind sharing that you haven't yet about your experience with filming and working with Pedro?
First and foremost, Pedro Pascal is a genuinely nice man. You couldn't ask for a nicer, more pleasant person to work with. Second, he has a very unique sense of humor. It's the kind of sense of humor where I don't know if he's really making a joke or he isn't making a joke, such as comment about the appearance of a cabbage in a cabbage field, and it made me wonder if he was a method actor and was in character and adding a kind of confused dimension to the Javi role, or if he genuinely thought the cabbage was amusing. I am still confounded by this. I mean, who makes a joke about cabbage except him? It's just not funny.
Face Off is one of my favorite action movies. How did you go through the process of learning to portray a different actor? Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Face Off is my favorite action movie, largely because we had the maestro John Woo to direct. The process was a matter of getting video of Travolta's dailies and trying to study it so I could copy his voice and movements. John Travolta conversely did the same with my dailies.
What is your dream role that you have yet to complete?
I would like to play Jules Verne's Captain Nemo. Because of the character's love of the ocean, I share that with him.
Lord of War is one of my favorite examples of there's a lot more to this in cinema. Do you feel like this movie impacted your career significantly?
I think Lord of War is the best movie I made pertaining to a political situation, and I think that it's influenced other movies, like Wolf of Wall Street. I think the narrative and voiceover work and the portrayal of a reprehensible gun runner in the light of an attractive, charming personality was ahead of its time.
If only 3 of your films could be preserved for posterity, which 3 would you choose?
Bringing Out the Dead Pig, Leaving Las Vegas.
What's the movie quote you hate most when strangers holler it at you in public?
I don't have a problem with any of the quotes. I'm glad they remember the movie.
Hello, good man. What are your favorite non-work-related hobbies?
It's a good question, albeit a difficult question because Everything I do ultimately informs my work, but if I had to make a list, I would say reading, watching cinema, and exercise.
Who is your favorite character in all of literature and film?
That is so hard to answer. I will say that James Dean's performance as Cal in East of Eden is largely the reason I became a film actor. His role in that is one of my favorite characters in cinema. But then we can go all the way to Rasputin, or we can go to Dmitry Karamazov. Dmitry Karamazov is one of my favorite characters in literature. I love him so much because he's so happy, and he has no money. He's just living it up. He spent all his money trying to get the girl. I did the same thing once. I was very Dmitry Karamazov in high school. The most beautiful girl in high school, who was a grade older than me, invited me to the prom, but I had no money. My grandmother gave each of us a little bond. My older brother bought a car. My second oldest brother bought some stereo equipment. And I splashed out on a chauffeur-driven limousine, a tuxedo, and a 4-course meal at Le Dome on Sunset BLVD. The car was $2,000, the stereo was $2,000, and my prom night was $2,000, and man, that was money well spent. That's Dmitry Karamazov.
Hi, did you keep the snakeskin jacket, a symbol of individuality and belief in personal freedom, from Wild at Heart?
No, I gave it to Laura Dern. She was such an enormous part of Wild at Heart that I felt it belonged to her, but now I wish I had given it to my son instead. I would have liked him to have it, but it's okay. Laura has it.
One of your most fascinating performances to me was as Big Daddy in Kick-Ass. When you were crafting that performance, was Adam West the biggest inspiration for your superhero persona, or were there other sources you felt you drew more heavily from? Thank you, and have a great day.
I would give it all to Adam West. I grew up watching him on the 60s Batman show, and he is where it begins and where it ends as Big Daddy. I met Adam West once, and I said, "Did you see I was channeling you?" And he said, "I saw you try to channel me."
Is there a performance of yours you feel gets misunderstood by fans who turn it into a meme or gag?
Well, let's talk about the difference between meme and the word gag. My understanding is that meme represents a symbol of a pop cultural movement of sorts. A gag is somewhere in the realm of a diss, and I don't look at anything anymore as a diss. I see it more as a recognition of some sort of expression.
Ethan Hawke said that you're the first actor since Marlon Brando to do something new with the art of acting. Any thoughts on that?
It's very kind of Ethan to say so. As you may well know, I've worked with Ethan in Lord of War and have always been spellbound by his talent. I think many of the choices I've made have been inspired by film stars from the silent era, as well as cultural expression of performance like Kabuki and some of the Golden Age actors like Cagney. So, I don't know how to say I've done something new because those elements are always on my mind.
Pig was an absolutely incredible film. What drew you to that project, and why do you think that it struck a chord with so many people?
Thank you. I was interested in returning to a more quiet, naturalistic style of film performance, having done a series of more operatic performance styles. The movie feels rather like a folk song to me or a poem, and the character of Rob was contending with tremendous grief and self-imposed isolation. And I think we, as a group of people experiencing a pandemic in 2021, were probably also having similar feelings of loss and isolation, and it communicated to a nerve we were all experiencing. It's one of my favorite movies, and it's probably my best work.
I have 2 questions regarding the movie Willy's Wonderland. Did you or the director decide that you would not say a single word the whole movie? And 2, every time you went to recharge, grab a can from Six Pack, was it secretly filled with alcohol or anything like that?
1. The dialogue for my character in Willy's Wonderland was very sparse, so I decided with Kevin, the director, to go full Harpo Marx and take all the dialogue out because I thought that would be a fun acting challenge to see how much I could communicate without words and only with movement and facial expressions. I'm very happy with the results of Willy's Wonderland. It was a good experiment. 2. The can question is an interesting one, and I hesitate to answer it for you because your relationship with the movie is far more important than my relationship with the movie, And so you, as the audience member, can imagine and surmise whatever you want to be in that can. That is a far better answer and reason for the can than anything I could tell you. I want your opinion as to what was in the can, because that was the right opinion.
Wow. Answer to number 2 is one of the best answers I have ever seen in an AMA.
This AMA is legit probably one of the best that Reddit has ever hosted.
Thank you to everyone who tuned into our chat this afternoon. It was a real pleasure for me to have some communication with all of you. As I'm sure you might know, I'm not normally on social media, so it's nice to meet you and to talk about all sorts of fun things, and especially the movies. Subscribe